Electricast.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley. You know what I can't do? I can't make my name sound like a tough guy, like a made guy name, you know? Wesley.
Or are you a Dunsky?
Dunsky. Put the Bina on the outside.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and sell it if you want to be a Dunsky. You calling me a Dunsky?
It's a Fugazi.
It's a what?
Yeah, I know what a Fugazi is.
It's a fake. Yeah, I know what Fugazi is. Oh my God. So good.
Yeah, apparently they took the name from a limousine company. That wasn't actual mob slang.
It wasn't mob slang?
Nope, forget about it.
Today we're talking a movie from 1997. If you haven't gathered, Donnie Brasco. What's the hierarchy? How do you go up the ladder, and what are the rungs on the mob ladder?
Well, according to Lefty, first you are a friend of mine, and that means you're a connected guy. Friend of ours means you're a made guy, and a friend of Dorothy means you're a gay guy.
I think there's like a skipper in there. They use a nautical term for like a runner-up, and then you're like the guy. What's the top guy? The Don?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Why am I like oddly excited to discuss Donnie Brasco?
I'm not sure.
Why has it been on my mind?
After Al Pacino, Scent of a Woman, I recommended it to you because I had seen it a bunch of times, but I thought maybe you had seen it. No?
No. And after I told you I had seen Donnie Brasco, what was the first question you asked me?
I don't remember.
Did he look blind?
Yeah. Did he look blind? Because whenever he's not making eye contact, ever since Scent of a Woman, Al Pacino looks blind to me.
I definitely thought about it once or twice, but Lefty's a pretty connected guy. He's tracking Donnie. He's definitely scoping Donnie out.
He's a friend of ours.
So big mystery of Donnie Brasco. How does Donnie know it's a Fugazi?
Because he's Don the jeweler. I don't know. He's a reputable guy. I'm not really sure how he knows, or if it's a very, very dangerous play, being that he's made several attempts at that point in real life to infiltrate the family.
I suspected that maybe he had set it up with Porsche Guy, but then there's no indication in his interaction with, or altercation, I should say, with Porsche Guy that there is any connection there, unless Porsche Guy is like a really good actor.
Nope, but then there's a sub-level, too, where, he says, keep your mouth shut to the guy that recognizes him in the airport, or the other guy says that to him, but he doesn't break cover. He gets all in his face, and he's like, listen, this guy is going to kick your ass, or whatever, if you don't come correct with the money. He's trying to reason with the guy, because he's not like a made guy yet.
Yeah, he's partially just trying to reason, but he's also kind of fronting, or he's like showing off for Lefty.
Right.
Lefty's got 26 kills under his belt,
Man.
But he's afraid of Donnie. Hat! Okay, so you don't know how he knew it was a Fugazi?
No. More and more convinced that he didn't know, that he didn't understand, and it got away from him a little bit, the repercussions of what went down with the guy with the Porsche. I'm not sure if he knew he was going to be in such trouble. But, for all I know, that was that dude's wife's actual diamond ring, and that's a bummer for him.
Oh, it was like an actual Tiffany's diamond?
Yeah,
Maybe. He seemed to kind of admit it with the handing over of the keys.
It's collateral damage for everyone, that in Joe Pistone's life, that if he has to maintain the front, like the poor Japanese guy, it's going to be a bad deal.
Oh, that was rough, dude. And the way he's like whimpering when they're beating him in the bathroom, and then they replay it on the tape. It's just like, twist the knife. Okay, so wait, before we move on, so by my math, he's probably a year into his cover as Don the Jeweler by the time they meet in the diner. And maybe he has been doing actual jewel work. Maybe he has some actual skill.
Yeah, it's never referred to again. You would think for the mob, they would have him fence a lot of jewels or whatever if that's their thing, but it doesn't seem to come up again. Nor does Don the Jeweler stick once he's kind of made, or once he's close to made, once he gets inside.
He doesn't really utilize that much for the mob. So he's Don the Jeweler, and Nikki knows him, knows he's a connected guy. So he's just like living his sad little studio apartment life.
Studio apartment life? Like just a little guy trying to be a big guy?
Yeah, and just kind of hanging around where connected guys hang around, or wise guys hang around.
Yeah, but with diamonds. I mean, he's serious enough that he has a pocket full of diamonds.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to have to like super front and get your big break with Lefty.
Exactly.
But in real life, Joe Pistone, an incredible 6 years undercover, and was on the verge of being a made guy. He was going to go through the ceremony and everything and didn't want to be pulled out. So by that time, he had been at least 2 years in real life, trying to infiltrate the family, and probably knew his stuff, or at least had connections with other people playing the Donnie Brasco role so that other people would vouch for him.
Oh, man, that's rough. 6 years? And the wife still went with him to his, commemoration ceremony?
I don't know for sure, but I know that he stayed married, and I know that within 8 months or something of his going undercover, his family moved across the country, or was moved across the country, and he communicated with them by phone for 6 years. For at least 5 of those years.
What a saint. His wife.
Maybe. I mean, so the reason the FBI pulled him out was because the line was a little bit too blurry. If he was actually going to be made, that means he was actually joining the mafia. And there's condoning the things that you would have to do in the line of work for the purposes of being undercover, because eventually he brought down 2 families, but you can't let the cop actually join the mob.
I mean, where do you draw the line? How is that any different than allowing the cop to saw off people's limbs?
Their distinction. I'm guessing being a made guy is more profitable than being a cop guy because, they're living in style or whatever. I don't know. The FBI knew all about him or whatever, so it's not like he could operate really in the mob.
How well do you know this movie?
I've seen it probably half a dozen times. It's just one that I came to. It's a Netflix streaming regular that is accessible and has strong performances, but maybe is a little bit under the radar and not regarded seriously. Do you think Donnie Brasco is a serious mob movie? I mean, if you're gonna get a mob heavyweight, Al Pacino leads a respectable bunch of dudes in a Sopranos type setting or whatever, but he's Al Pacino, for God's sake.
Meaning he's a respectable mob portraying dude?
Right. So apparently Al Pacino was up for the role of Donnie Brasco, and he was taking that seriously. He was going to do it, and then for whatever reason decided to be Lefty instead, a more interesting character for him, and recommended Johnny Depp. I'm not sure on the strength of what, but we talked about Finding Neverland and Johnny Depp chasing credibility, and maybe facial hair helps. But I wonder if this is kind of gangster light because of a pretty boy like Johnny Depp. Not that Ray Liotta wasn't all fresh-faced in Goodfellas. Maybe that's what they were aiming for.
He's coming off of, Don Juan DeMarco, Ed Wood.
That's when he got a chance to work with Brando.
Don Juan DeMarco?
Yep.
Dead Man. He has some big titles under his belt.
He's really trying not to do the conventional thing.
Johnny Depp made playing this character feel effortless. He didn't feel like he was trying to not be pretty.
And I think that's a good thing.
I mean, he throws it all away. He plays it really cool. He's very likable. He's super tough. It's very convincing how he wins over Al Pacino's Lefty. I love how this movie just gets going. The opening scene, you got the two characters in the same location, kind of checking each other out. The very next scene, Lefty commissions, or not commissions, I guess he kind of hijacks Don the jeweler. And then the scene after that, they're like already bonding and hanging out and getting to know each other. And I just love how this movie gets started.
Lefty fancies himself a keen judge of character. He thinks he's found his diamond in the rough in Donnie, and within a single meeting where he comes out ahead a Porsche, he's like, you want to check in with me tomorrow? And like, he's already in the club.
Well, I mean, I guess for expediency's sake, right? You got to get the story going. But it seems very natural, and I definitely did not get the whole stereo thing until the second viewing. I honestly thought that Lefty was just like an OCD dude who like could not abide like a rattling stereo and had to fix whatever was loose back there.
There's a weird level of transparency in this movie that I think is what makes it stand out. It happens several times, so much so that when you get sent for, you go knowing that you're going to die. And it's a formality. It's almost like they're doing you a courtesy, not outright telling you, you screwed up and you're going to die. They have a code, but it's painfully obvious to everyone involved what the moves you have to go through, the motions you have to go through to set things up.
Right, except for when they want to gift you a lion.
Yeah, which was because we know by that point. It's like, oh, we know what happened with the radio, and we know what's going to happen because Lefty is convinced. And then they're like, oh, you thought he was going to get killed, you thought he was going to get wasted or whatever.
I mean, do you think they were purposely misleading him?
No, the movie was.
Okay.
Apparently a true story.
The lion?
Yeah, this is where it gets weird. Just the whole thing. I'm not the lion part. That's definitely weird. But you are playing with actual people and actual happenings. But yeah, they gave him a lion, albeit a lion cub, and then they couldn't play with it forever. And so they chained it to a tree, and it made headline news in New York. They paid some people off. It took them a couple of nights to do it, but they paid people off to call the police, and there's a lion in the park, and the police didn't believe it at first.
That's the best when they're feeding it like fast food hamburger patties through the slit in the window.
I guess it was still a cub at that point.
I don't know. It was a big ass cub. Very menacing.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So impractical. But I guess it's one way that the mob shows their love and affection for one another.
Yep.
It's like, I know you love animals.
It's mob logic.
At least they established him watching like the nature shows before then. Do you think that him liking the animal shows is just like his affinity for like the natural world and like dog eat dog and stuff like that?
I'm not sure. I think Lefty is just he's like a dad kind of gangster dude. He's like dad bod type.
So he's definitely surrogate dad to Donnie, or at least he fancies himself to be that, right? He's a mentor. He's like, what are you wearing? Don't dress like that. Dress like me. He's basically making Donnie like a mini-me. And throughout the entire movie, up until the end, he's teaching him, right? He's always correcting him, teaching him. And Donnie, an obedient student and surrogate son and sponge of information, seems to really soak it all up.
And here's the interesting thing. Donnie Brasco, 26 years old this year. This was not my first mob movie, but it's one that I've seen a number of times. And what I realized in these subsequent viewings is that it's not all good. Like Frank Slade in Scent of a Woman, he is not really well suited to be a father figure. Lefty is kind of a schlubby nobody who really wants to be, as opposed to Slade, really wants to be in this paternal role, this mentor role. And he sits around in his tracksuit, and his clothes are kind of scummy. And the first meeting with Sonny Red, he's like, don't make me come looking for you. He's like, I just shit my pants, right? And he plays it off, but he's dressed down in front of Donnie the very first day. And Lefty's so much older than everybody else, including Sonny Black. It doesn't make sense. Like, he's like the old dude they keep around kind of out of pity. That they would give a lion because it's funny to watch the old guy like struggle with the lion.
Yeah, like he's past the point where he's a real threat.
Yeah.
Like if he's not ready to go away, then might as well just make use of him.
He was never going to get made.
Everyone tacitly knows he's never going to move up the chain.
Right. And he doesn't have a backyard, a buried reserve of money. He leaves his wife everything he has, which is on his person. And that's really all he has to offer. It's kind of an ignominious end for the Lefty character, at least in the movie. But really, he was kind of stuck in where he was.
Yeah, I think that Lefty desperately wanted to succeed at something. It seems like his gambling was his downfall. That's the reason that he wasn't able to, gain any material or financial wealth. He's kind of a failure as a father. I mean, not to put the responsibility of his son being a junkie on him, but he doesn't have a great relationship with his son. I think he really just wants to succeed with Donnie. And I think that's why he reluctantly accepts it when Sonny Black introduces Donnie to Sonny Red.
Uh-huh.
He feels betrayed. He's like pouting on the bow of the ship and stuff, the yacht. But ultimately, I think he accepts it because he wants to see Donnie succeed, because by extension, it's his own success.
Immediately following him setting up the boat, the left hand, Sonny Red gets out, or the guy gets out of the car and he's like, "Where's Sonny Black?" He's like, "What?"
Oh, man, so painful. And then he just shows up with his entourage, and you're like,
man.
Oh.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
You know that feeling when someone shows up for you just when you need it most? That's what Uber is all about. Not just a ride or dinner at your door. It's how Uber helps you show up for the moments that matter. Because showing up can turn a tough day around. Or make a good one even better. Whatever it is, big or small, Uber is on the way. So you can be on yours. Uber, on our way.
How hilarious is it watching New York gangster types like recreate?
Yeah, on water slides and stuff. And
in Florida.
That tennis scene was improvised. They were losing light, and they didn't really they didn't have it blocked or scripted, so they were like just playing tennis, and I think it worked pretty well.
Oh, it was so good. Just like their get-ups. Like they're like, well, we're in Florida, let's play the part.
Yep.
They're all in pastels and laying around on lawn chairs. It was pretty good. Was the Paul Giamatti Forget About It scene improvised?
I don't think so, but it was one of the reasons watching this movie that I thought that you would like this, not only because of our Al Pacino discussion, but because Buster Scruggs is in there too. A lot of heavyweights and Oscar nominees and winners all throughout this movie.
Yeah, they're just kind of hanging out. And I'm not... Somehow the Forget About It scene all made sense to me when they were doing it. But ultimately, I don't think that Johnny Depp was saying it any differently every time he said it.
No, exactly. It depends on the context.
So what does Forget About It mean?
It means whatever you want it to mean.
I wonder how long it took Joe Pistone to figure out how to incorporate that in.
Donnie Brasco is our entry point. The character is our introduction to a world. We learn it as he learns it, where it's explained to us by Lefty the same way it is to Donnie.
At least in the fictional Joe Pistone playbook, like he's unhinged. He's not like them. He is one of them. And he has a real relationship. Even if it was built on pretense, he has a real relationship with Lefty. When he's going on about the boat, I'm just as flummoxed as Lefty. I'm like, yeah, if it was cold, I'd be annoyed. Why is he talking about the boat? And then I realize that he's just being completely... Donnie Brasco is so smooth, and he always plays it cool, and he always sticks to the cover. But when he's going on and on about the boat, he's just being so obvious. Like Lefty, when he's talking about the boat, and they're going down to the other boat where Sonny Red's son is watching TV, like Lefty knows, right? Even if he's in denial about it, in his heart of heart, he knows that Donnie was the rat.
That may be the case, but also they get rid of Nikki. That was a legitimate mistake. If anybody knew, number one, not everyone knew. Like you said, if Lefty knew in his heart of hearts, he was in denial about it. Or not. Maybe he was just like, I'm a schlub and this is what I've come to deserve. Because he still goes to work after Donnie is carted away by the FBI. After they go into the club, Lefty could be like, I got some things to do, and roll out of there once the FBI brings photos. Why would they do that? Why would they be like, okay, now that the cover, guess what? We totally got you guys. You know what I mean? If he's implicating them, you would think that would be their time to cut and run. But they show photos of Agent Joe Pistone to the family, and then Lefty still goes to work, and he still plays the game, and he gets up from his comfy chair and goes when he's sent for and presumably gets shot. He's talking about fleeing in the middle of the night and no one would ever find him, and he'd just get on that boat and go down to Florida and you'd never see him again. Why doesn't he do that? I guess even the schlubbiest of dudes can have the fantasy, but practically speaking is never going to get away, is never going to change his life.
Like, do you think there was some kind of mob honor? So you said it was ignominious, but do you think he was trying to go honorably?
I'm not sure honorably. I'm just thinking that he didn't have, I think he understood from a mob perspective that he was doomed to be in one place anyway. But I think that he just kind of gave up because his schemes never worked. Maybe the scheme of escaping with his wife to a better life was never going to work either. And he just kind of gave up.
Or, okay, so here's what I think. I think that his pet project in Donnie Brasco does work. Once Donnie's going on and on and on about the boat, and I can give you money right now and whatever, he's being so transparent in his motivation to kind of save Lefty, maybe out of his own guilt or his own kind of compassion for him. But Lefty, he knows, whether subconsciously or consciously, but he still goes and he picks off Sonny Red's son and kills or allows for Nikki to be killed because that's what Sonny Black wants. And if Sonny Black is happy, then he's happy, and he's also happy because he knows that now Donnie is at least clear for a little bit. Like, he's looking out for Donnie, and he goes willingly to being sent for because he knows that his pet project did work. He says to his wife, if it had to be someone, I'm glad it was him because he's a good guy and he has a future ahead of him, even if he was all twisted and tied up in the mob and twisted and tied up in his friendship with Lefty.
Man.
He definitely was kind of a loser mob guy, but I think he goes kind of honorably. I think he goes happy for Donnie.
So Lefty is a tragic figure? A tragic hero?
He goes in the best way a loser can go. Are you saying that when they're all standing outside the restaurant after the FBI delivers the photos and they're like, they're trying to trick us?
I almost had me going. If you didn't know Donnie, I would have bought that crap, that evidence, indisputable evidence that he's an FBI agent.
Do you think they're all just like fronting in front of each other because they don't want to, nobody wants to admit that they were had?
I don't think that's it because there's accountability. Lefty, if I'm the biggest schmuck in the history of the mob, if this all goes south and if you're a rat, then what am I? I don't think there is accountability on anyone's part other than to blame it on Lefty. And for that reason, they maintain the ruse that was, again, completely transparent to everyone involved, that they know it. Lefty knows he's on the hook, and they're going through the motions. It wasn't a thing. Everything is fine. Why don't you come by later and we'll give you another surprise.
They're just allowing for Lefty to go with a little bit of dignity.
Yeah, but this is the twisted dignity that only the mob can do. Like, they're going to kill him. There's no dignity in the murder where they hold him responsible for them being tricked. But I guess this, as Don Draper would put it in The Town, this misguided omerta, that the code is the most important. And in a way, in a dumb way, going to an unnecessary death is honorable.
I guess you really have to be in it to understand it.
That's the poster quote for this movie. Not for our discussion, but, Donnie Brasco. Undercover. You have to be in it to understand it.
Nothing excuses you from backhanding your wife, but he was in it pretty deep.
You're allowed to leave. I wonder if there's some special dispensation or some compensation from the Bureau. If you're like, you guys made my husband a mobster and he was a college guy. Now, I ain't afraid of nothing or whatever. I ain't saying nothing. And then she could probably in this era, sue the FBI for ruining her family, right? Making her a single mother.
Who can leave?
Maggie could leave. I don't care if it's for a job or whatever. If he's absent for 6 years, comes home and smacks you in the mouth, you're allowed to leave.
Oh, for sure. You're saying she could have left him.
Yes.
And she could have sought compensation from the FBI.
Would have been completely justified. She doesn't have to be a martyr.
No, she doesn't, which is why I was surprised when she shows up at his ceremony. Oh, man, the most ironic ceremony ever. Where the guy who's bestowing the medal on him, he's all rushed and completely detached, like hands him the check as if $500 could compensate in any way whatsoever.
It's a formality. It's a gold watch, and it's not what he signed up for or not what he dedicated his life to.
He had a little medal or a little plaque, a measly $500, which is like a slap in the face.
Did Joe Pistone get out as honorably as Lefty did? Did he come out of this ahead? I mean, he stayed married, I guess.
And I guess that's where the book picks up, where the movie leaves off. He seems awfully broken and kind of adrift, Joe Pistone, at the end. It's sad. It was like an impossible friendship. And I think that's what gets me about it, is that they had a real relationship, a real kind of father-son dynamic, but it was an impossible dynamic that I think maybe, in a way, both of them knew was never going to last.
Mike Newell, the director, he had a couple of hits, not really like Donnie Brasco at all. And so he got the Donnie Brasco one and Al Pacino attached, and that's a big deal. Again, I wonder about this. Is this satisfying as a serious, like, mafia movie guy lover kind of movie? Some said that Mike Newell made Donnie Brasco and Lefty into kind of a love story, a tragic love story of sorts.
And maybe that's why it works for me, because I don't feel like this is a mob light movie. I mean, they're sawing off people's limbs. I mean, come on. It was very tense when they're going to pick off Sonny Red's son. I was so stressed out. They ratcheted the tension so tight that the moment before the FBI turns on their floodlights, I had to pause because I was too stressed out.
You didn't know that salvation was coming?
No, like literally the second before it came, I was so freaked out that I had to pause the movie, and then I played it again after having released the tension, and then the FBI stepped in. I was like, oh, thank God.
So it was being played as though you thought that Lefty had finally had enough and was going to kill Donnie on his own, because if anybody was going to do it, he was going to do it.
Well, either that or Joe as Donnie was going to have to commit murder. You know, he had done some atrocious things for the mob, but he hadn't killed anybody.
Yeah.
He was going to have to go through with it. He had no choice. And then I really felt like, at least as it is portrayed in the movies, that's a point of no return for a lot of people.
It is a gripping drama. I put this in a category with Johnny Depp's Blow, where he's trying really hard to be serious. And I really buy him. I think he's a good actor, and I think I buy him in this role. As much as anything else. He got a little bit weird because he always was a little bit weird. But when he wants to, he can do serious drama. A lot of tension in this movie. I think it was, in a way, Gangster 101. We weren't meant to understand the world because some of it's kind of confusing, but we had it from a Lefty teaching Donnie kind of perspective. And so maybe this is not mob light, but entry-level mob, an introduction to mob. Hey, you don't understand or you don't appreciate Goodfellas or the Scorsese harder-hitting stuff or even The Godfather? Check out Donnie Brasco, and you'll be coached through the mob experience.
If you're like a connected guy, then you watch Donnie Brasco. But if you're like a mob skipper, then what do you watch?
Oh, yeah, then you're watching... I'm not a huge fan of The Godfather, and I can hear your collective gasps all around the world. but it was too dense for me. And I revisited it as an adult after having read the book and still don't get the adoration. I felt it paled in comparison to the book, but that's not always the case. I can appreciate movies for what they are aside from their source material. Donnie Brasco is more my speed.
All right, so we understand where it ranks in terms of mob movies. How does Donnie Brasco rank in terms of your rating?
This doesn't have the hallmarks of a totally movie because it's not redemptive. It's pretty dark and pretty light in terms of mob commitment. And I think it's one of those movies that I would have recommended in my days as in the video store because it's somewhere in the middle. I feel like it flies under the radar, and that's kind of a shame. And maybe for the purists, it's too entry level. But I think it's really strong. I think it's a deceptively strong performance from Al Pacino. He's not as chewy. He has his moments, but otherwise, Lefty is weary and disheartened and still putting up the good fight, still maintaining that I think is extraordinary. And I think that Johnny Depp holds his own, and him being recommended by Al Pacino for a role he vacated is really, he deserves that. And Hesh great, and Michael Madsen great, and all the I believed it, and I really like Donnie Brasco. I give it a solid, a really high all right rating.
All right. And likewise, I'll give Donnie Brasco a good, and that's our discussion on a movie from 1997, Donnie Brasco. If you enjoyed this episode, 818-835-0473 or orwhatevermovies@gmail.com is how you get in touch with us. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Iris, host of Or Whatever Movies and the forthcoming Powers of Darkness podcast. For the better part of a decade, we've been unraveling a literary mystery that begins with a strange version of Dracula. Yes, that Dracula. It's a different story, imbued with a potentially insidious agenda. What we've already found so far reshapes what we thought we knew, but the investigation isn't over. Support our efforts to finish what we've started and bring the full story to light. Go now to Kickstarter.com and search up Powers of Darkness to learn more. Coming soon on Electricast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Electricast.
Hi, I'm Mark. And I'm Peter. We're the founders of Electricast Media, bringing you great podcasts like Nightmare Road Stories, Tech Talk Revolution, and Bodacious Minds.
Electricast networks include Ruby for female empowerment, the Best Business Network, and GPN for geopolitics. We built this company to create community and amplify diverse voices, and we really appreciate your support.
So, keep listening to Electricast podcasts and hear the culture.
Electricast. Electricast.